back to another episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I'm Jonathan, webmaster of SpiderManFanRave.com, SpiderManFanRave.com. And joining me tonight is James. What's going on, James?
Not much. Just getting ready for the football season to start tomorrow and the WWE pay-per-view Backlash. Besides that, not much. Gonna be looking at UFC coverage while this is going on because I want to see how CM Punk's first fight's going on. So besides that, nothing much.
As for myself this week, I watched my street get flooded today because, man, did it rain hard for like multiple hours ongoing, just torrential downpours. That is rain if I've ever seen it. Other things that happened to me this week, I went to school. For my creative writing class, I wrote poetry, which got a positive response. So I was feeling good about myself. So I don't know, self-esteem boost. My music theory class, I have to write a excerpt of a piece for Monday, so I should probably get on to doing that tomorrow. And other than that, yeah, I can't say that many eventful things have happened. I guess that's just the life of a suburban Northeast Ohio boy. I guess that's just how it is. But there was one thing this week that was, I guess you could say it was shocking. I guess you could say that because I'm sorry, this was a terrible pun, but we got some news this week that I honestly did not expect. We heard about it for several weeks. There was a supposedly leaked cast list a few weeks back for Spider-Man: Homecoming, the upcoming film coming out next year, and on it listed a specific actor whose name I forget. I'm sorry. I am blanking on his name at the moment. It listed someone as playing the Shocker. And I thought this was BS, but the set pictures that we got this week clearly proved me wrong. Because not only is the Shocker in this movie, the Shocker is really in this movie. Because for anyone who has not seen the set pictures, just go on Google, type in Spider-Man Shocker set pictures. I'm sure you'll get 10 results that'll pop up. But for anyone who's not seen the set pictures, it's pretty much Shocker right out of the comics. I'm not kidding you. They took him right off the page, and it's kind of incredible. I never thought that we'd actually get a comic accurate character like that, especially one who has such a weird suit, but we've got him. They took him right off. He's got the gauntlets, he's got the mask, he's got everything. And he's yellow, and I think yellow and brown, and he's got black sunglasses. His mask almost kind of looks like a yellow version of Andrew Garfield's first homemade mask from Amazing Spider-Man 1.
There's rumors online that it's like they reused that and painted it yellow.
Yeah,
it's like a joke online that's all they did was put their mask and they just painted it yellow.
Yeah, from when he was trying to track down the burglar in ASM 1, and he had just that plain red mask, and when he was wearing the jacket and the hat. Yeah, it looks exactly like that except yellow, and he's got sunglasses, and he's got a vest, and he's got the gauntlets on him, and it's just he looks badass. I'm going to be honest. It's just, I love it. James, what do you think? MCU Shocker, really MCU Shocker. What are you excited, James?
All these movies having Shocker in it. First, it was Die Shocker. Then it was Space Shocker. Then it was Super Shocker. Then it was Super Die Shocker. Then it was Shocker Nova. Then it was Shocker on a pole match. And then, oh wait, we're talking about the wrong Shocker, aren't we?
For whoever didn't get that reference, I don't get it either. So.
Kamen Rider, the original villain in the original Kamen Rider was Shocker. And every time they do an anniversary movie now, the villain has to be a new syndicate with the same name, Shocker, just to reuse the old villains because they can't move on. But anyways. Yeah, he looks like Shocker. He's not straight out of the comics. They modernized it. He's wearing cargo pants and a red vest, and besides that, you look at him and it's it does look like Shocker. You look at that and you say, what Spider-Man character is that? People immediately will say, okay, that's Shocker.
Which is kind of surprising because you wouldn't think that they would let
I thought they would go Ultimate. With
exactly,
just like the leather jacket look or whatever it was.
With how hesitant some of these movies are to put people in their classic costumes, especially the villains, it's kind of surprising to see Shocker in his comic look. He looks, I mean, obviously not straight out of the comics, but he looks like the comic.
It looks like Shocker. It reminds me of Sandman from Spider-Man 3. How Spider-Man 3 was literally just Sandman out of the comics.
And then you have the same thing here, and it's very clear to me that Marvel are just like, yeah, we got a guy with a ridiculous costume, and he's in a Spider-Man movie that we're going to make money off of anyway because look, we just put our logo on something, we make money. Let's do it. What do we have to lose? So they're like, let's do Shocker. Why not? And Sony's just like, yeah, okay, Marvel. Yeah, we'll give it to you. We've given away all of our creative control on this movie anyways. Because they've said it's a Sony Pictures production of a Marvel Studios film. So they've said that. I think that's a Kevin Feige quote, actually. So don't hold me to that. But I know someone said that. But yeah, it's kind of cool. And I really hope that I don't know how big of a role Shocker's going to have in this movie, but I really hope he gets a nice long action sequence just so that I can enjoy the comicness of it. Just so I can enjoy the fun, wacky
villain. Watch him be the only villain, and the Vulture idea was literally just like early like brainstorming, and then they scrapped it right away, and they went with Shocker. So all the fans are like, yeah, Shocker's so great because he's gonna be a secondary villain, but I can't wait to see Vulture. Oh, what do you mean there's no Vulture in the movie? It's just Shocker? That was disappointing. Like, can you imagine the reaction that would be if it comes out? No, it's just Shocker. Vulture was a plan, and we cut him out again.
Let's see. He was a plan in Spider-Man 3. He was a plan in
Spider-Man 2.
He was a plan in the unmade Spider-Man 4 that turned into Amazing Spider-Man 1. He was a plan in what could have been a future ASM franchise. Now, we obviously know Michael Keaton is playing the Vulture, so he is still going to be in this movie, but I'm very happy with the Shocker look. I'm very, very pleased. When I see Shocker, when I go to the movie theater next summer and I see that Shocker, it's going to be a good day because I don't know if I'm going to like this movie. I'm sure I will, but I never know until it happens. I'm sure I'll enjoy it, but I'm going to enjoy that part because that's going to be good. So, James, any final thoughts on the MCU Shocker?
Not much. Like I said, I like it, and the one really thing I'm excited about it is just seeing what they look like Shocker. I can't wait to see about what Vulture's going to look like. And like I said, I said this before we went on the air. To see then comic accurate Venom or comic accurate Green Goblin or Doc Ock or Sandman we already saw in the movie, but you know what I mean? Like to see because especially with the MCU, like Loki is like the closest I think I get to being comic accurate with the villains in those movies. Even. So this is very surprising.
Well, I mean, if you consider the Winter Soldier to be a villain, then that was like right off the page. But
yeah, I don't, because that's like considering somebody who got like brainwashed a villain. They're still the hero. It's just that they got brainwashed into doing bad things.
But still, like Winter Soldier's right off the page. Like there are plenty of other people in the MCU, but still, it's looking good. I give 2 thumbs up to this. I saw that and I was just like, man, that's good stuff. I was not expecting it, but it's very solid work. But speaking of the Shocker, he is actually in a story that we're going to talk about tonight because as we move into the review section of this week's podcast, we are going to be taking a look at actually 2 stories, one 2-parter and one single issue fill-in. And the first is Amazing Spider-Man 578 and 579. This is part of a Brand New Day trade paperback that I have because I don't have the single issues, but Yes, Amazing Spider-Man 578, 579. Later, we will also be looking at Amazing Spider-Man number 580. But to recap here, as just like a little context as to where the title is at this point. At this point, Spider-Man is very much settled into the Brand New Day status quo. Aunt May is a full-time volunteer at the Feast Center, which is a homeless shelter that helps people in need in New York. J. Jonah Jameson and Marla Jameson are in the middle of getting a divorce because Marla sold the Daily Bugle out from under Jonah while he was comatose from a heart attack. Peter Parker is living with Vin Gonzalez in an apartment, and he is having a little bit of trouble maintaining his daily life. He's having those typical troubles of money and all of that other stuff. He's already dealt with the Thunderbolts and the new Venom and Anti-Venom and everything, and that storyline beforehand. He's very much in the Brand New Day status quo at this point. There's not too many amazing developments have happened yet. This is as Brand New Day as it gets, pretty much. This is as textbook late 2000s Spider-Man, I guess you could say. This is not anything that is worth noting in a history book. Not much has happened up to this point, but also there's enough to inform a solid world around this particular storyline. But Amazing Spider-Man number 578, Unscheduled Stop Part 1, writer Mark Waid, artist Marcos Martin, colors Javier Rodriguez, letters VC's Joe Caramagna, assistant editor Tom Brennan, senior editor Stephen Wacker, Bob Gale, Mark Guggenheim, and Dan Slott are as part of Spidey's Brain Trust. And the issue opens with Spider-Man perched on a ledge with a web umbrella that he's made himself, eating Chinese food, and he opens the fortune cookie and it says, "Today will be your lucky day." And he basically calls BS because at that moment he is getting soaked by rain. It's a terrible day to be Peter Parker. Lucky day, my soaking wet size 9s. No sooner do I drop my last dime on a hot lunch than the sky opens up. I could swear I saw a guy over on Flatbush building an ark. Now Aunt May's expecting her favorite nephew at the Feast Center in half an hour. And by the time I web it from Brooklyn in this mess, I'm going to be an honorary Atlantean. And Spider-Man, he's down on his luck. He's hating life. And all of a sudden, he finds coming through the air, floats a little I guess gift card for the subway, and he immediately rushes down and finds that there's one ride left on the card. And so he's like, maybe today is my lucky day after all. So he rushes down the stairwell. He's saying a soggy Spidey suit is a small price to pay for a cheerful transit authority experience. Hold the door, please. Next train. A security guard comes to the door of the train. He stops him. But the next train's not for 20. Next train. But at that moment, someone who very much looks very shady and who I really would not follow if they asked me to get on the train with them. I would not take this chick's offer to get on the train no matter what. I would wait around for the next train. I'm going to be honest. She looks very hot.
If I'm Peter, she's pretty hot. If I'm single Peter Parker right now, I would do it.
I'm going to be honest. No, I find her to look shady. I think she looks pretty shady. Like,
who cares if she's shady as long as you get to have fun before then?
Okay, James. Just I'm not good.
Okay, Peter Parker is like what, 25, 26 when the story is taking place. I'm talking from a 26-year-old guy point of view, the same age that Peter is in this issue. I'm from down.
So anatomically speaking, never mind. Just all right. So she tries to provoke him over to her train, and he obliges. He gets on. Whew, just in the nick of time. Proportionate strength and speed of a desperate commuter. Get it? Wink, wink. So the woman flirts with Peter, and he's like, "Oh yeah, great. It's like I've never spoken to a woman before, even though I was married. Oh, I mean, in a serious, committed relationship. But no, I totally can't hold a conversation with this beautiful woman. Oh man, my spider sense is going off. What's going on? I can't even tell where the danger is coming from. I'm not sardine crammed into this crowd. And Peter starts pushing his way through the train car, the passengers, trying to figure out what's wrong. And all of a sudden, he realizes it's too late because the car shakes, they fall off the track, and they realize there's been a cave-in. And so Peter manages to get into the other train car, the train car that was, I think it was behind him, which was the actual target of the cave-in, because as we'll learn later, it was a calculated. It was not an accidental earthquake. It was a calculated move. And Peter manages to get in there and save. He manages to put his mask on just quick enough so that he can hide his identity. And he's holding up the rubble, trying to make sure that no one gets crushed under it. He manages to get some of the passengers to get these guys out from underneath the rubble so that he can let it go and not have to hold it up anymore. And he realizes that he's in a train car with only about 15 people on it. And that is no accident, because it turns out they were under guard to survey a crime scene because they were the jury for a Giacomo trial. That's right. Giacomo is actually one of Carmine Carnelli's boys. Carnelli and his gang were involved in the first story back at the way beginning of Brand New Day, 546 to 548, which was actually covered on an episode of this show. I can't tell you which episode, though, because I don't remember the episode number, but it's in the back episodes. Go look for it. So they explain the situation to Spider-Man, and basically he's like, so he put out a hit on you guys. Yeah, pretty much. I'd say that's fair. No, you can't prove that. Is that his lawyer? Yeah. Shut up. Like, you saying anything right now, just shut up. So Spider-Man manages to pry the doors open, and they're like, hey, shouldn't we sit here and wait for rescue? No, that's really not a good idea. So they walk out. Spider-Man tries to lead the way. They're trying to find a way out, but at that moment, the place starts to shake again, and the ceiling starts to give way. And there's a little bit of a problem with that, because not only could they be crushed by ceiling debris, they're still under the river. So they could also drown, which would not be a good situation for this jury to be in. So Spider-Man does what he can to stop the debris, stop the flood, but at that moment, their only source of light goes out, which was a flashlight that one of the passengers had. That goes out, but luckily Spider-Man turns on his spider signal, and they discover a ladder which could lead to a way out. So everyone's like, where does it go? Who cares? Climb. Maybe we can at least get high enough to get a cell phone signal. But Spider-Man's spider sense goes off just at that moment, telling him that something's wrong. And it turns out that he's right, because at that moment, the Shocker appears. And Shocker is the one who caused the cave-in in the first place, because he's working for Giacomo and Carnelli and all of them. So Spider-Man manages to fight the Shocker and take him out pretty easily, but it also causes basically a pretty intense feedback from Shocker's gauntlets, which cause a very big wave of vibrations. I'm sorry, my brain's getting away from me. But basically, there's a cave-in. There's an excess cave-in, which causes injury to Spider-Man, and also it pretty much makes the jury feel like, man, we're not getting out of here, are we? I don't see how. The roof isn't going to hold. The access shaft is collapsed, and the water's rising fast. And at that moment, a man who has actually been fairly helpful to Spider-Man throughout this whole debacle, he speaks up and says, I don't want to go to my grave not apologizing to you, Spider-Man. To me? For what? For my son. I suppose I should introduce myself. My name is J. Jonah Jameson Sr. Dun, dun, dun. To be continued. So that is Unscheduled Stop Part 1. And James, we'll go to you first with your thoughts on this issue. What do you think of Amazing Spider-Man number 578 here?
It's really good. There's not really much things to complain about. The artwork, It's one of the reasons why it kind of sucks that started his solo run kind of more lean towards Ramos and other artists that aren't as good as his artwork for his run. It's really great. It really captures kind of that classic Ditko feel, but yet it's kind of a modern update on it. And I love that about this artwork by Marcos Martins. I can't pronounce that. Marcos Martin, right? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, make sure I'm pronouncing it right, because I don't want somebody to say, no, it's Martine, and then I feel like an idiot or something like that.
Well, I think it is Martine. Who knows? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a good issue. This is once again a good one of the rare times that the Parker luck is actually handled pretty well. The rainy day thing, okay, ha ha ha, that's been done 1,000 times like Charlie Brown, but it actually is kind of going his way until Shocker fucks it up for him. How it's like, oh, he just happened to find a random, pass. And as somebody who lives near a big city, Chicago, when you're going to the train there too, it's like, it's a lot of money. So if you got like a pass, a gift card or whatever for it, that's pretty cool. Peter gets it. He gets the one last ride. He'll make it in time for Aunt May. He starts to talk to a hot model who's really into him and all this stuff. And of course, he has to walk away from her because his spider sense is tingling and Shocker blows up the train, presumably killing her because you never see her again in the next 2 issues.
Well, I think what they said is that the other train cars managed to not get caught in the whole debacle. It was just the jury car that Spider-Man got caught in.
Oh, okay. Because I thought that meant that, like, okay, she's dead. Peter thinks it's his bad luck, but if he would have stayed in that car, he would have been dead. I thought that was the route they were going, but okay. Really good. Shocker part is like kind of cool twist because I think the cover for the next issue, like they deliberately like blocked out Shocker on the cover because they wanted to be a surprise on who the villain was. Shocker, it's kind of cool because like he was like one of the first real villains to be used again after memo of no classic villains, create our own villains. They're not working. Okay, bring back classic villains. That going on. It's kind of cool. Tie into the previous issues. No. Shocker was always kind of a weird thing to me, though. The whole, I got to apologize for my son, J. Jordan Jameson Jr. I'm J. Jordan Jameson Sr. There was never a hint that Jonah was. Like, there was issues before where they retconned it, where he mentioned his father was very abusive and a workaholic. No, that was his stepfather. My dad, and he says, you're no son of mine in some of those things. And it's like, so it's retconned, and it maybe kind of fit with the whole you're no son of mine stuff, but weird because Jonah never acts like that was never his father. And I think they even refer to his dad, or previously, before the retcon, as Jameson. So I guess the mom married someone who had the same last name, but again, it's New York. There's probably a lot of Jamesons. So you got that kind of weird thing going on. And also, it's like, Jonah was always portrayed at May's age, but it was probably like at most he's probably was like 5 years younger than her. And now they introduced the father who is Aunt May's age. It's kind of like, well, wait a second, then how old is Jonah then? Aunt May is in her 60s, and Jonah's still in any of this. He looks like he's in his 50s. So what did J. Jonah Jameson Sr. have when he was 10?
That's a disturbing thought that I don't really want to think about. Maybe we just assume
the way it could be, though. It makes no sense when they introduced him.
Maybe we assume that JJJ Sr. is like 10 years older than Aunt May, so that would make him 20 when he had Jonah.
I don't know. It just feels weird to me out.
All right, James.
So yeah, that's about all I can say about the issue. It's a pretty good issue.
So I take it you give this issue a thumbs up then? Think a positive rating from you? All right then. So my thoughts on this issue, my thoughts on this issue, a pretty solid story. Not really too much to discuss with it because it is very much a part one of the story. The Parker Luck, I agree with James, is handled pretty well in this issue. I did kind of roll my eyes a little bit at like the rainy day scene right at the beginning and Peter just being like down on his luck. It's like that was a little bit forced, but it got better as the issue went along. The scene with the Shocker, the Spider-Man Shocker fight was actually pretty good. I enjoyed that a lot. I thought that Spider-Man's humor in this issue and like his overall characterization by Mark Waid was actually pretty on point. Something I think I talked about, I think it was 2 episodes ago with Mark Guggenheim and the character assassination story arc, is that Guggenheim had a real handle on Spider-Man's banter. And I think that Mark Waid also captures that here because he very much locks in on Spider-Man's voice and he makes sure that his dialogue sounds natural and it sounds like it would be something that the character would say, especially in this given situation. So I thought that was really admirable. I can totally say that word. About Mark Waid's writing here. The artwork by Marcos Martin is very, very solid. I agree with James. It's very much a modernized Ditko style. I'm not sure I would want him as like a full-time artist, but I do agree that once in a while, like he's a good rotating artist to have on the title. I think he fits the style. I think he fits the style of the story very well. His cartoonish yet his cartoonish but not too cartoonish look, I think fits the tone of the story. It's not completely dark, but it's also, not completely bright and happy. So I think it fits the mood of the narrative pretty well. The cliffhanger with J. Jonah Jameson Sr. being revealed, it's kind of a weird element to add into the story because it's like we've gone with Jonah for 45 years, 46 years at this point, and it's like we've never mentioned anything like this. So it is kind of an odd character to bring in, but I mean, it's not that it's handled poorly. I think the next issue will really illustrate how well I think it's actually handled, but I think it can be a bit of a jarring introduction for fans who've been reading the character for decades at this point. For someone like me who was only, I'd loved the character for about a decade when I first read this story. It is a bit of like a moment for me, but I can see I could see what their intentions are with it. So it's overall pretty good. And I think the overall structure of the actual line of dialogue that he has when he says, "My name is J. Jonah Jameson, ... and they move to another speech bubble and they put the senior alone in that, I think is actually a pretty clever structural trick. So that was good. But I also like, just a little thing I noticed actually just right now is I also like, speaking of Martin's Ditko-esque art, I like that the issue ends with Jonah Sr. standing on the spider signal, which is kind of a little nod to the older 60s issue. So that's just something that I noticed now that I think is actually pretty cool. But overall, I give this issue a thumbs up. I think it's perfectly solid. It's a very good first part to this arc. And so we'll move along to Amazing Spider-Man number 579, which has a really great cover by Marcos Martin that I absolutely love. It's Spider-Man wearing one of the Shocker's gauntlets, which will tie into a plot element later on in the issue. And they're fighting in the middle of the access tunnel, which I really, really enjoy, which I think that's a great, really fun cover. So we got the same creative team as last time. And before James gives the recap, I just want to point out, look at, this is a TV that Aunt May is shown to be watching. They couldn't even put Sony on the TV. They made up Zony. But you can clearly tell exactly what they're trying to attribute it to in the real world. So I just find that to be funny. But go ahead, James. Actually, no, I lied. There is actually one credit difference in this issue. VC's Chris Eliopoulos is on letters instead of Joe Caramagna. So there is one creator difference, but everyone else is the same. So go ahead, James. What happens here in Amazing Spider-Man number 579? James.
Give me a second. I got an important text message from somebody. Give me a second.
James has a social life. How dare James have a social life that is interfering with our nerdiness? How dare you, James?
And I got a date tomorrow night. Sweet, happy to me.
Wow, James, I guess you're really not a good fit for this podcast because Peter Parker and anyone who likes him can never have a girlfriend. He could never successfully find love. No, he must always be alone forever. James, you are a terrible Spider-Man fan. Absolutely awful.
And to anybody who actually believes that, go fuck yourself.
I was being sarcastic, James.
I wasn't talking to you now, was I, John?
I know, because by that measure, I'm also a terrible Spider-Man fan. All right, James.
Anyways, she begins with Aunt May all being classic 60s Aunt May, and by I mean classic, I mean, oh my god, this gets so annoying. I hate when writers do this. God damn it. Ugh. She's all like, oh, I'm so worried. He's 5 minutes late. He should have been here by now. Oh, whoop-de-doo, a big 5 minutes. He's probably dead in the subway. It's like, she hears the news report about the attack, and then she's like, oh, thank God Peter's not there, because the Parker lock irony and all that bullshit. Because it's Aunt May from 1962 that does not belong in like 2008 when this issue came out. I'm sorry. What's going on? ESPN. Oh, bullshit. All right, yeah, so she's all like this Parker luck irony of well, I feel bad for those people, but thank God Peter isn't there. Because he makes a comment even earlier that he doesn't have time to call Aunt May, even though he has a cell phone. He could call her when he's saying that monologue, but whatever. But in the previous issues, I think he even says like, "Oh, there's no time to call Aunt May," to set up the whole fact that she doesn't even know he's down there. Anyways, Peter's all like there, and he's all like he's more focused on the fact that Jonah has a dad than saving the people. It's kind of weird. Something's not holding, and he's all like, "Well, I got some important things to worry about. Like, how the hell are you Jonah's father?" No, Peter. The most important thing is getting these people out. And he jumps down. He starts looking around. He finds one of Shocker's gauntlets. Because Shocker was knocked out in the previous issue. It's like, hold on, I got an image. Sorry, sorry, I'm a little distracted here. Shocker doing this because he's a criminal. He's a paid hitman for the mob boss from the previous issue. Peter, like I said, grabs the gauntlet right when Shocker's about to wake up, and then a person wants to kill him because they have to make commentary about gay relationships.
What?
He says, "You murdered my partner."
No, that's a cop. James, he's talking about his...
Oh, then I misread. I'm looking at my notes right now, and I clearly misread this issue I heard of the night before.
You just got us in so much trouble. Oh, my God.
Apologies to any straight... apologies to any cops in New York, especially with the 15th anniversary of 9/11 tomorrow. Apologies.
We apologize to everyone that James just offended right there because, oh my God, this is what happens when you don't pay attention, James. Oh my!
I had other things to worry about. I had homework. I had work. I had a lot of stuff when I read this issue last night. So screw me.
Well, I have homework and stuff to do too, James, but I don't go around offending people because of it.
Well, whatever. Moving on. Okay, so the guy's all like, "I'm going to kill Shocker," and then Peter's like, "No, we need him to get out." So he starts like going all Dark Knight on it. We're going, "Where is he? Answer me!" And starts pounding Shocker's skull in, because that's what you want to do when you get answers from a guy who's human. Besides the fact that he uses electric gauntlet things. His head as hard as you can across cement in the middle of the New York subway system, because that's what you do when you want answers from a normal human being and you have the strength of a spider.
Proportionate strength of a spider, James.
So yeah, he starts beating the shit out of him to get Shocker to help, and then Shocker finally agrees, and then so Spider-Man starts using his gauntlets to try to break away free. And I like the whole image of like when he does it the first time, he like the power of it, which is pretty cool. You got news from Jonah as he's at the the divorce proceeding with the lawyer, and she's all like, "I still love you, Jonah. So I'll get the divorce because if whatever you want to make you happy." And he's just staring at the rain, like really still pissed off at her.
As you do when you're about to divorce someone. Like, I can
But you
see it.
really feel bad for her, and it makes Jonah like a complete dick.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, I
Because
can
for
see.
one, he did save his life because it was the stress of the paper, with newspapers going out of business, which caused him his heart attack. So she did it to help him. And she's professing her to love how she's only reason why she's doing this is because when you truly love somebody, you just want whatever will make them happy. And if divorcing me will make him happy, then he can divorce me. I got the rain like fuck you at her, and it's like really makes like there's moments where Jonah looks like an asshole in the comics history, like Civil War is one of the big parts. Looks like a douche, and this is a douche moment. So, and he only shows a spark of humanity when he finds out, yeah, his dad might be dead in a subway.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like that's kind of big news.
You're divorcing your wife right now.
But he's his father. Like, I could see how that would spark an emotional reaction.
But you find out with the later issues that he doesn't even like his dad.
But he's his father.
Well, okay, whatever. So yes, more back down the subway. We got them, saving Spider-Man from the Rumble after he got flew back from the. You got more Spider-Man like helping everybody, like carrying Jonah Senior, and you got a lot of people. He's helping them to safety. Shocker's right behind them. He like makes like a web, like elevator to get everybody up. People are holding his spider signal for him, so that way he can see what he's doing while he's helping them get out. It's really cool. And it's kind of a weird, awkward moments of like Spider-Man have to working together to get out of there. Like Shocker's on the ledge and Spider-Man's the only one like, here, pal, let me pull you up there to safety since you got no way of killing me because your arm bandits are gone. It's this really like creepy moment where like they're all like turning on flashlights and everything to find out where Spider-Man went, and then it's like more heavy shit falls on him, and rats that are like gnawing at him. It's like really creepy. Rats that are like eating at Peter Parker.
It just reminded me of those like JMD Mateus vermin issues.
So Spider-Man, of course, the person who says no one dies, electrocutes the fuck out of the mice on him.
Well, no, he's only talking about people there, James. Mice, no, mice are open season.
And also, while he does it, he like pushes off all the rubble off him too. Creative way of doing it now. It's not just him thinking about happy thoughts and he's able to pull the shit off. It's more of rats are gnawing at me and I don't know what diseases they have. Get the fuck off me. Get the fuck off me. Kind of emergency.
Well, that's the understandable reaction.
So yeah, the water's also, while they're trying to get up high, as they keep getting up higher and higher, the water is like rising just as fast. So it's like the race against time. And race against time gets even worse as Shocker decides to say fuck it as he turns out to have a button on his belt that blows up, the gauntlets. So Spider-Man has no fucking way. Not only does it blow up the gauntlets, but it causes another cave-in.
Because why not? That's only
Shocker's
been
an
done.
asshole.
That's because why not? That's only been done 4 times. Like, there's been so many cave-ins in the past 2 issues. Like, how is this? Like, how is the city even like still standing?
Well, then, of course, Spider-Man, this is gets towards the end where they're finally to the top where they can all get out. Shocker only did that because then he thought, okay, I'll cave in everybody else and I'll get out because they're right there, right above a manhole and stuff like that. But Spider-Man, of course, gets everybody out, and then he realizes that Jameson's still down there, so he has to jump down there. He saves Jameson Sr. It's still raining in New York City history, I guess. And everybody's saved. Spider-Man's there. Everybody's happy, including Jonah. But, of course, right, he has to leave right away because Jonah's there, and he's like, oh, fuck my life, and he webs things away. And then while this is going on, Jonah's waiting for his dad, only for his dad to disappear.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which, at the time, made me think, was it a ghost? Like, I'll be honest, 18-year-old me reading this issue for the first time was like, and then he's gone. I did not get the whole point that Jonah went there to see if his dad was okay, and his dad once again left. It's Spider-Man looking, too, and Spider-Man's like, so I took it as, was he there to begin with? Was it all just a ghost? All my was at 18 years old when I was like,
Great job, James. Your public school education really paid off.
Oh, and it goes full circle with Spider-Man. Like, well, everybody survived, so I guess you could say it really was a lucky day that I was there. And then while that's going on, Jonah's like doing the Incredible Hulk 70s walk with the music. Do 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 do.
All right, James. So what do you think of Amazing Spider-Man number 579?
Not as good as the first issue. You run into the problems of like constantly they're like, heavy shit falls on Spider-Man. Now let's add rats. Heavy shit falls on Spider-Man. Now Shocker's gone somewhere. Heavy shit falls on Spider-Man, and water's rushing to drown him. It's like they're like really going over. It's like the first year we couldn't write no storylines with a bridge or heavy shit falling on him. So we're getting it all out of our system with this issue, and then they can't stop after this point.
Didn't they already do a bridge, though, before this issue? Like, I feel like this was not the first time that happened.
But you know what I mean, though? It's like this is when the manifesto really kind of like got thrown out the window. We're never doing this shit again. And then this issue does it like 5 times.
All right, but
you got the Spider-Man having to help the people, and they all hate him because they think he's a murderer at this point because a character assassination didn't happen quite yet. So they all think he's a murderer and blah, 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 and they all hate him for it. That they had to trust not only Shocker, who's a known criminal, but Spider-Man, the guy who they think is a murderer. So it's just really kind of good, like, who do you trust kind of thing. Like, the tension's there of when Shocker going to betray everybody, and is New York going to turn on Spider-Man before he can save them? Like, say, like, kind of like pull like a day after tomorrow where they're all going to, like, fuck you, and they all leave and they cave in, they're all dead. Tension's there, you don't know what's going to happen, and I like that. My only real complaint is Aunt May. Because she's worrying, and it could have been done so great. She's like, oh, Peter should have been here by now. And she looks at the TV, and she got like a message from Peter like on her phone that says, hey, Aunt May, I'm catching a subway train. It's my lucky day. Worried about Peter? No, she's worrying about him when she knows like nothing's wrong's going on besides it's raining, and he's 5 minutes late. Then she sees this news, and she's like, woo, at least Peter's not dead. It was really weird, like very weird. They could have done that same scene if they just worked it a little bit different, like her being seeing the news report, like, oh, what's taking Peter so long? She sees his message of, oh, he should have been here by now, but the subway, and then she sees the news report, and then she starts freaking out. That's a great way of dealing with this. Not the way they did it, where she literally goes, woo, at least it's not Peter, to get across the whole Parker luck and irony that it is Peter. But besides that, there's nothing else really to complain about this issue. It's really well done. I think the only real complaint I have with it, and the second complaint I have with it, is the cover is kind of misleading because they build you up like it's going to be this big epic fight while the system in New York is crumbling beneath them, and it's literally just Shocker presses the button on his belt and runs away saying, fuck all y'all, bye! And he runs away. It's like literally that's all it is in the actual issue.
All right, James, so do you give this issue a thumbs up, a thumbs sideways, or a thumbs down?
Like in between a sideways and an up, like the Aunt May part really irks me. So as you know, John, I hate that 70s, 60s gullible as shit Aunt May. All
right, I'm really positive towards this issue. I really enjoy it quite a bit. I think the main pro of it for me is the JJJ Senior backstory. I thought that was well handled. And the one thing that I actually really liked about it is that most of it was told while Spider-Man was trying to save the people. And he was actually like, he was like, keep talking, Jonah, keep talking. You're keeping me and everyone else from panicking and focusing on the fact that we might not get out of here. So just tell this story. Make sure, do not leave anything out. Just keep talking. I do not care. And I thought that was actually like a pretty clever way to deal with it. The Shocker stuff, I will admit, like James said, it's like, when's he going to turn? What is he going to do? That was some pretty good tension in there. I agree with James on that. Something that I will point out as a negative is like, there was at least 2 or 3 cave-ins in this issue, and it got really old really quick, especially after the 1 or 2 cave-ins that we had in the last issue. It was like, the gimmick only works so many times, and it was overdue after the first time. So it was like, you've overdone it. Just stop doing it now. You've lost your stick. the milk is expired. Let's just say that you didn't need 5 cave-ins in 2 issues. It was just a bit much. The Jonah Senior divorce scene was actually fairly solid. Jonah does look like kind of a douche, I will admit, because this is Jonah obviously being immature, but we know that that's just Jonah's character. It's like Jonah's a douche, but he's our douche. He really is.
Because it's not like she did it to fuck him over. She did it to save his goddamn life. Be grateful, Jonah. I know Jonah has a weird hero complex, how you think that anybody who saves anybody's life must mean they're evil, but she's your fucking wife, Jonah.
Well, so like that was good, and the cliffhanger with JJJ Senior being gone. I don't really know how James thought that he was a ghost. I'm not really sure.
I was 18 at the time, John.
Well, I'm 18 right now, and I didn't think it was a ghost, James.
You have hindsight of knowing the character's alive now, though, John. This is the first time we're meeting him.
Yeah, well,
I thought that was going to be the retcon way out of how Jonah could have a dad that's that old, and he's that old. It was all along his ghost, like leading Peter, because he died in a subway crash before.
All right, but
and he was there as a ghost or an angel to bring back Jonah and Marlon. That's literally what I thought was going on, John. We're talking about.
That would have been some weird, trippy stuff to bring in for Brand New Day. It's like,
I was some weird stuff when I was 18, so.
We got to ground Spider-Man. We got to bring him back to home.
That was a joke, John. I'm not serious.
We got to ground Spider-Man. We got to bring him back to home base. We got to bring him back down to Earth. So what's the best thing that we can do? Let's have the ghost of Jonah's father come back and haunt him. Well, to keep him from getting a divorce from his wife. Great job, James. Absolutely wonderful job, James. Okay.
Yeah, great job, John, making fun of a guy for something he thought 8 fucking years ago.
You know what? What was I thinking 8 years ago? I don't know. I was 10. I don't remember that far back. But yeah. Okay, what was I even talking about? Oh yeah, I found Marcos Martin's art to once again be very good. I will admit that this image of Spider-Man covered in rats. When I think of this, I just think of the James DeMatteis Vermin issues, which, like, say what you will about those stories, hit or miss, the Vermin stuff. So it's like, but that was just a really harrowing image. Spider-Man using Shocker's gauntlet and not expecting the feedback from it, I thought that was a pretty cool moment. Overall, I really, really enjoyed this issue. My favorite line was when he made the makeshift rig that he used to lift everyone up. He asks Jonah Sr. if he knows anything about engineering. Unfortunately, no. Why? Good. That's a good thing that you don't. Because if anyone here knows anything about engineering, if you just take one look at this, you'll panic right now because this is not good. Because he's describing the very poor quality of his makeshift lift. So overall, I give the issue a thumbs up. I think it's a very solid introduction to JJJ Senior. I think it's just a very solid Spider-Man story overall. It's a pretty textbook by the formula Spider-Man story, I think. But I think it has certain charms to it and a very strong understanding of the character that it manages to outdo any cliches or tropes that it could fall into. Any trappings of, formulaic Spider-Man that it could fall into. I think it mostly avoids that. I think it does a pretty good job and illustrates the character very well. So that is Unscheduled Stop, and now we'll just move into the other issue that we're going to talk about tonight, which is just something that I really wanted to do. And it's Amazing Spider-Man number 580, Fill in the Blank. And this, I want to show off this cover by Lee Weeks, which is I just love this image. I'm not really sure why, but it's Spider-Man in front of just swinging in front of a bunch of money. I think that's just that would be a good poster, I think. I don't know if they've ever released a poster for it, but I think that would be a good one.
I think they did.
Yeah, that'd be a good one to hang in a bank somewhere.
At least I don't know about the background, but I know the Spider-Man has been used somewhere before by them.
Yeah, that'd be a good hanging artwork. Good piece of artwork to hang. But Something that we should note about this story and moving into the creative team is that this is a Roger Stern fill-in. And how do you know it's a fill-in? Because fill-in is right in the title of the story. Fill in the blank. But we got Roger Stern writer Lee.
It's also kind of an obvious fill-in to the fact that you get the sense that his issue that he was supposed to do was sooner than this, and they put it here. Because if you look at the money from the cover, there's a little Easter egg that says ASM 5559. That's the serial number on all the money.
Yeah, that is. I never noticed that until now. So maybe, well, there's one ASM 554. So, but like most of it is 559. So maybe he was supposed to do this fill-in issue like earlier in the year, and they just pushed it back. But yeah, so we got Roger Stern writer Lee Weeks, artist Dean White, colorist, letterer VC's Corey Petit, Tom Brennan, assistant editor, and editor Steve Wacker. And the issue begins with Spider-Man, or Peter Parker, running across the building, changing into Spider-Man. He's on the phone with his Aunt May. Aunt May, you're breaking up. Say again? I said the bank is being robbed by that blank man I saw on YouTube. Blank? Keep out of sight. Stay safe. I'll hang up and call 911. Aunt May? I'm fine. But a guard's been shot. At that moment, the blank sees Aunt May, but he doesn't hurt her or anything. He says, here you go, Grandma. Go ahead. Call the cops. I don't care. Spider-Man shows up on the scene just as the blank is making an exit. He says, drop the money bag now and pray that no one in that bank was hurt. He tries to take the blank on, but he realizes that he's not having much luck hurting this guy because his webs and everything, it slides right off. He's not making very good contact. What's this guy made of? Teflon? He tries punching him, and he goes flying. At least the punch doesn't slide off of him, but his backside must be as slick as his head. He slides right in front of a truck, but it turns out his slippery nature allows him to get away scot-free. Spider-Man goes looking for him, but he finds nothing, so he doubles back to meet Aunt May at the bank, where he runs into Detective Ray Donovan. Haven't seen him since I worked for the Daily Globe, back in the beginning of the 80s. So this was clearly Roger Stern, an 80s writer, clearly making references back to the old era of Spider-Man.
This issue is clearly like Roger Stern, like having a lot of things he wanted to do, not just with Spider-Man, but with other books he did in the 80s for Marvel, where he's like, finally, I can do it in this fill-in random issue of Spider-Man.
Yeah, so
like, hell, you dipped Carly Cooper as one of them.
So
it's not this one, but it's a later issue he does where he does that.
So the blank goes back to his room at the Plaza Hotel, and he's like, he just lays down on his bed of money, and he's like, Brother Clyde is living large, and anyone who tries to stop me is just gonna draw a blank. Ha ha ha. So Peter's at the Coffee Bean later after he takes Aunt May to work at the Feast Center because she insists on it. He's thinking to himself, Aunt May's been through so much in her life. She shouldn't have to go through a bank robbery. Ba-deep, ba-deep. Weirdos like the blank shouldn't be giving Spider-Man the slip. Hello? Robbie? What? Robbie? What's up? One of our streamers reported that your aunt was at the Metro branch that got robbed this morning. She's all right, I hope. She is, Robbie. In fact, she's taking it better than I am. May's a strong woman, Peter. I understand Spider-Man showed up, so I'm told. He got there and was gone before I arrived, so I didn't get any pics of him or this blank character. Do you have anything on him that isn't already on Google? The blank? Just that the FBI is taking him very seriously. They've promised more information at an afternoon news briefing. The FBI? Right. Say, Robbie, when is that briefing? So Peter meets up with Ray Donovan, and he heads down to the FBI briefing. And at that moment, while at his hotel room, the blank is watching a news conference, or is watching the conference on television. And basically he flashes back on his origin. He was a guy walking down the street, being hounded by this guy who was explaining to him his new scientific breakthrough, when unfortunately tragedy struck that young fellow, and the blank character made off with his tech. He's like, it took me months to figure out how to power up the gear from his briefcase, but once I did, I knew that no cop alive could stop me. And he became the blank, and eventually he dealt with the West Coast Avengers, and he teamed up with Graviton, and Graviton told him to screw off and threw him away into an island. But the impact of Graviton throwing him away actually merged him with the technology, so now it's all one. Now he literally is the blank now, and he could be the blank forever. but there's a doctor who says he can help him, but it'll take a lot of cash. So Peter's frustrated after the FBI briefing that they didn't really give a detailed plan on how they would take down the blank. And Peter and Donovan get into a bit of a shoving match, and he says, "You're out of bounds, Parker. I know you're upset, but we can't disclose anything more. Now go home and cool off. Pete, trust me, we'll bring the blank to justice." "Yeah, see that you do, and I'll see what I can do." So Peter goes out as Spider-Man to try and find the blank character. Meanwhile, the blank robs an armored car with a bunch of money in it. Spider-Man manages to learn of this because of the fact that he slipped a spider tracer on Donovan during their shoving match, so he was able to follow him and get word on the FBI's location so that he could know whenever they track down the blank. So he heads off to fight the blank in the armored car. Fight breaks out. Some collateral damage is done to the city, but eventually Peter manages to get him all webbed up, and he delivers them to the FBI. He goes over to the feast center with Aunt May. He tells her that her arch nemesis has been apprehended, or her arch enemy has been apprehended. And so Peter says, "Why don't I take you to Lucatelli's for some shrimp fra diavolo?" "That sounds lovely, Peter, but are you sure you can afford?" "I'm sure. I've already been paid for that pick. Dinner is on the blank." "In that case, dear, lead on." So that's basically the rundown of this issue. It's a pretty straightforward, once again, textbook-style Spider-Man issue. Just giving my thoughts, I really, really enjoy this issue. This is Roger Stern's Spider-Man. It feels like an 80s issue. It kind of looks like an 80s issue in the way that Lee Weeks does the artwork, which is very strong in my opinion. His Spider-Man honestly does emulate Romita Jr.'s style a bit, so that, again, helping to give it more of that 80s feel. The blank, the way his origin is given, the way his backstory and everything is handled, is very classic style through flashbacks, internal monologue, narration, all of that stuff. It's very much emulating the time when Roger Stern was really, when he was in his prime of writing comic books, per se, quote unquote. I thought all of that stuff was good. It's a very simple, linear story. Peter wanting to find this guy because he threatened his Aunt May. And, of course, Peter has, whenever you threaten Peter's family, that always pisses him off. So it's a very, very character-driven plot, which is, I think, some of the best stuff that you can get with Spider-Man. So all that stuff is really good. The blank, I can't say that the blank is a very good villain. I can't say that he's a very, very strong concept or anything like that, but I don't know if I don't know much about the blank except for his appearance in this issue. I've never read him in anything else.
Last time he appears ever, John.
Apparently he was in the West Coast Avengers, but he's not a good villain, but for this story he works. So I give this issue a thumbs up. It's textbook Spider-Man. Whenever you need to know, you need a fun, good Spider-Man issue to just sit back and relax with, maybe something to read before bed, give 580 a try. I think it's a very, very solid story. Not anything spectacular, but very linear, very easy to understand, and very, very well crafted, I guess you could say. So thumbs up for me. Very, very, very strong issue. So James, what are you thinking of Amazing Spider-Man number 580 here?
It's a good issue. It's a one shot because it was a fill-in. It was, I think if I remember correctly, it was just a case of in the Marvel offices working on something else, like an omnibus where he was doing like an afterwards, something like that. And the Spider-Man team said, "Hey, do you want to do a storyline for us for like an issue, maybe?" And he was like, "Sure." And this is what, and literally, not only does it feel like an 80s issue, but from like what I understand, Stern took this issue and later on, the Juggernaut storyline he does later on, to basically make it not only feel like it's an 80s Spider-Man story set in the modern day, brand day era, but also use characters that he never got a chance to really use or he wanted to use again. Or in the case of Carly Cooper, say, hey, you know, there was a girlfriend I wanted to introduce in my run, but my run ended before I could introduce her, and she was basically going to be similar to Carly. So all the ideas I had with her, for that girl, I'm going to have Carly do in this issue. Is that okay? Okay, moving on. It was like literally what he did with her, like in that later Juggernaut story, was he outright said because character who was similar to Carly, so he said, fuck it, I'm going to finally get that itch off by making Carly be the ideas I had for that girl. And so you had characters returning, like, you know, Donovan and the Blank, and like anytime they appear or they mention something, like they had to add like an editor's note. And like every panel here is an editor's note. See Fantastic Four issue, blah blah blah. See Spectacular Spider-Man issue, blah blah blah. See Amazing Spider-Man issue, blah blah. See Avengers West Coast, blah blah blah. See regular Avengers, blah blah blah. It's like they have to like explain who half these people are. So you got that going on. The artwork's really good. I always liked Lee Week's work on Spider-Man. It's kind of cool to see him get his work done here because it is very 80s plus, and like it's kind of ironic that John said that he's very JR kind of feeling to his artwork, which is why he was the fill-in artist for JR during Mackey's runs on the book. Thank God he got to do a good issue of Amazing Spider-Man. Because before this, the only other issue he got to do was the goddamn awful Mary Jane Stalker one where the guy blew up himself and had no name. So I think I'll take the Blank over that any day on my portfolio. Yeah, I drew Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, what issue did you do? Stalker one or an issue with Roger Stern. I think that one's going to get a little bit more credit, you know. So yeah, it's a very good issue. Got really not much complaints to go with it. It's very just Peter and Aunt May, but that's because it was literally like it could go on anywhere. It was a fill-in issue. But besides that, it was pretty good, and I have no real complaints about it.
So I'm going to take it, James, give this issue a thumbs up.
I give it a thumbs up.
All right, so that's pretty much going to do it for our review section this week. We don't have any other issues to talk about, and that's also going to do it for this episode of the podcast. We've basically exhausted all of our topics of conversation for this episode. So, James, any final shout-outs or words for the listeners before we sign off?
Shout out to the Packers. Tomorrow's the game. Hope we win. Shout out to a few of my friends that have birthdays this week. Happy birthday to you guys. If you're watching this, so happy birthday again. I'm sorry, guys. I'm stuck in my phone. Of course, tomorrow is the 15th anniversary of 9/11. So shout out to the men and women that were affected that day. And to CM Punk, I hope you don't get killed in the octagon tonight in your UFC fight.
My shout out this week: Marvel Stanley, Steve Ditko, Mark Wade, Marcos Martin, Roger Stern, Lee Weeks. Thank you for Spider-Man. Thank you for the comics we reviewed this week. Other shout out to MCU Shocker because that's amazing. Other shout outs, I'll echo James's shout out to the men and women who were affected on 9/11. Other shout out this week. This is something that I've been doing for the past week that I didn't mention in our week recap section at the beginning because I wanted to save it for here. I recently started writing for SpiderFan.org. Yeah, I'm their new reviewer of the Miles Morales Spider-Man title. So, so yeah, I'm officially part of the SpiderFan.org team. So shout out. So shout out to all of them, and shout out to my new boss, I guess, Jonathan Cooper Smart. First of all, I love your first name. That's cool. And also, yeah, I didn't really expect it to happen. It was one of those things where, like, both of us admitted that it was just out of the blue. I got a random email from him last weekend because he happened to be going through his inbox and he found something that I sent to him like 2.5 years ago. And he was like, hey, want to join? And I was like, sure. So, yeah. So shout out to SpiderFan.org and all the people that I now work with. Yay. I like the site a lot. It's very nice. Very nice people. And very good setup. Very, very enjoyable. It's a new way of me for me, it's a new way of writing reviews because I don't usually there are some new things that they ask for, but it's a very fun experience. I enjoy it. I've been going back and working on the new Miles Morales series for them, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. So shout out to spiderfan.org. Very accommodating and very, very nice people. So thank you for everyone who thank you to spiderfan.org for acknowledging my existence and for saying that my work is good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome because one of my favorite Spider-Man websites on the internet has always been Spider-Fan. They're one of the first ones I found. Like, to the point that I used to print out all the covers because they have like pretty much every cover of every ever in history and review. At least try to, if there's a picture of Spider-Man in a yearbook in Jones title, they put that, on their database. And so I took when I was in high school, like just amazing. I took all the covers at that time, printed them out, and made a poster that went all the way up and down my wall from Spider-Fan, because that is a pretty awesome site. Working for, I'm definitely gonna check out their site a lot more than I normally do, which is often already. So,
yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I look through spiderfan.org, and it's just the amount of coverage that they do, and the amount of documentation. I have to give it up to everyone who works on that, because it's I'm just someone who writes reviews. If I had to document all of that stuff that they do and just keep tabs on every single thing, I would drive myself nuts. So major respect to the amount of attention to detail that site gets.
Because if you go underneath their chronological appearance thing, it begins with Amazing Spider-Man issue this, and then 2 months later with the next issue, Amazing Spider-Man, and then it went monthly, and then you get to around the time Civil War, because they have to chronicleize everything. So it's every Spider-Man 3 tie-in, and every tie-in to Civil War, and every tie-in to Back in Black, and where Spider-Man appeared for 2 pages.
Yes, so shout out to spiderfan.org. Thank you for giving me a job. Thank you. I honestly do appreciate it.
So they're paying you because you keep on calling it a job?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not actually getting paid. It's just so
it's just volunteer work.
Yes, it's volunteer work, but I still appreciate it nonetheless, because it's nice to feel.
No, I'm not giving them shit for not paying you. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying you keep on calling it your new job, and I'm like, oh, so they pay you. That's pretty sweet.
Oh no, I don't want to get paid for this, but yes, it's nice to feel wanted. It really is. So thank you, spiderfan.org.
I don't think your new boss would want to hear, I don't want to get paid for this shit.
Well, just I'm stupid, all right? I'm stupid. But yeah, so shout out to spiderfan.org. Thank you all for making me feel wanted, and thank you for saying that my work is good enough to be on your site. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I look forward to writing more stuff. But yes, that is my big shout out of the week. I wanted to save that till the end so that I could dedicate plenty of air time to it. So yes, that is something that happened in my week as well. I wanted to save it till the end, but so yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this week's episode of the podcast. Next week we have the final issue of the Civil War II tie-in, so we'll finish that up. I think
James still got that shit done.
Yes, so James, we only have to read one more issue, James.
Oh, that shit.
We only have to read one more. That's all. Don't worry, James. I'll let you pick out a classic story as well so that we don't have to just do that. Oh, James is he's not happy that we have to that we're doing Civil War II next week. Hey, Civil War II, that event that's totally happening over at Marvel, but hasn't had an actual issue of its main series in 2 months.
So what you're telling me is the sequel for Civil War is just like Civil War?
No, because here's the thing. I enjoyed Civil War a lot more than I'm enjoying this.
I gotta be honest here. The only bit of Civil War that I'm actually reading right now is the Spider-Man tie-in. Because I remember when it came out, the first issue for that, I think it was when the first issue came out, I like literally went to the comic shop and I saw $5. Tired of, I'm just so done with events. I think what also didn't help was DC, like a few weeks before then, had comic only $2. It's like, here's a 20-page comic, $5. Fuck that.
Yeah, so we'll hit the final issue of the Civil War II tie-in next week, and then the week after that we'll have Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, number 18, which will be some development in the Doc Ock plot in Amazing Spider-Man. So that will be the big one, folks. But next week will be more low level still. But so thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who watched live. We had some people watch live tonight, so thank you for that. And we shall see you in the week that comes next.